Hello and welcome to HT Leadership Studio. I have with me Dr. Satchin Panda from the Salk Institute. He's done amazing studies which show that eating within a restricted period of time actually improves your blood sugar control, lowers your blood pressure, lowers cholesterol and helps you lose weight, including stubborn stomach fat, which is often very difficult to get rid of. So Dr. Panda, could you just tell us something about your study?
Yeah, so my studies are based on what we call circadian rhythms. So that means our body has a 24 hours rhythms. And so just like our brain has to sleep and stay awake for the day, similarly every organ in our body has its own clock, and every organ needs some downtime to repair, reset and rejuvenate. So with that principle, we did a lot of experiments showing that initially with animals, small mice and rats, that when mice are fed within 8, 9, 10 or 12 hours every single day, so that they go through overnight fasting, then they are completely protected from obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, even when they are fed junk food. So that was really surprising. And then next, we have done recently studies in humans where we took patients who had either high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol, belly fat and obesity. And when they went through 10 hours of eating every day and 14 hours of fasting, and that window has to be consistent from day to day.
Sure.
Then after 12 weeks, what we find is these people lost some weight. A lot of the weight loss was from the belly fat, which is very difficult to lose. And they improved their blood pressure, they improved their blood sugar.
So do people still need to stay on medication if you're taking diabetes medicine or if you're taking medicine for blood pressure or cholesterol? Is it safe to not eat anything at all and take medicine at the same time?
Yeah, so in this study, these patients were taking medication. They were on statin and one antihypertensive drug, and some of them were on metformin. We did not want to change their medication, so they stayed on the medication during this study. But my collaborator, who is a physician who can actually prescribe medicine and change doses, a few months after the end of the experiment, these patients continued with their 10 hours eating and 14 hours fasting, and many of them could reduce their doses and some of them could get off medication. But of course, that has to be decision of your physician.
So a lot of your work is on the sleep-wake cycle of the human body.
Yeah.
And you also stressed how we need to sleep and get at the same time and get adequate 8 hours, 7 to 8 hours of sleep. So can you just tell us about that? How does that affect our eating patterns?
Yeah, so sleep is very important to our brain, because that's when we think that the brain is not doing anything, but actually brain does a lot of stuff. Brain does its own detox. So now over the last 4 or 5 years, scientists are finding that a lot of the toxic chemicals from the brain are drained out during our sleep. Second thing that happens is during sleep, we also build up our memory. We strengthen the connection between our nerve cells.
That's super important for students too.
That is very important for students. In the middle of sleep, we also produce a growth hormone. And although after we become adults, we may not need growth hormone to grow, but what is important is growth hormone is important to repair our body. And what the sleep scientists are coming to a consensus is kids should be in bed for, like anyone, the babies, newborn babies after 2 years of age, they should sleep as much as they can. Then up to 5 to 7 years of age, maybe 12 hours, and then slowly it can go down to 9 hours during teenage days. So high schoolers should actually be in bed for 8 to 9 hours. And then the adults should be in bed for 8 hours so that they can sleep for 7 to 7.5 hours.
But with games and smartphones, I don't see that happening at all.
Yeah, so this is why what I mean to say is our modern lifestyle, particularly in the last 30 to 40 years, we did not know the importance of sleep. We did not know the importance of circadian rhythm. So that's why our anthropogenic world, or the man-made world, has been built around without the knowledge of this importance. So we have reduced sleep. We don't pay attention to when to eat or when to fast. So this is almost like a wake-up call.
So what you're also saying is the quality of sleep that you get also affects what you choose and what cravings you have when it comes to nutrition, right?
Yeah.
So also the time of sleep, you mentioned this really interesting thing earlier where you said if you delay sleep by 3 hours, even if it's during once a week, you take about 3 to 4 days to get back into your original pattern. So could you just elaborate on that?
Yeah, so when you are not sleeping, most of us, we are not actually lying in the dark room and staring at the ceiling. We are under light, and this light, through a special set of neurons that we discovered 16 years ago, it goes and resets our circadian clock. So that means our brain thinks that, oh, maybe that day was longer. So the brain clock resets by few hours. Then the next day, when you're trying to go to bed at your usual time, then the brain gets confused that, well, yesterday was a very different time zone. Although you did not travel anywhere, your brain thought that it's a different time zone. It tries to come back. So that pull and push continues for 2 to 3 days.
To just go back to what you said earlier, when you talked about being in bed and being exposed to light, you just don't mean, the reading light or it's also your smartphone, your tablets, or whatever you're reading with, right? Any kind of blue light.
Yeah.
So do you think we should kind of switch off our TVs and stop watching stuff a couple of hours before we go to bed? Does that improve sleep?
So this is where, it's gratifying personally for me to see that almost every smartphone manufactured in the world now, 3 to 4 billion smartphones do have this night shift feature. So that means you can preset a time when the blue light from the smartphone reduces and you get an orange color screen. We don't know whether that actually is enough to promote sleep, but at least this is almost like a nudge for you to go to think about, yes, you should now prepare for sleep.
Could you maybe perhaps simplify, is there a way that people can actually plan their day? You mentioned a wheel you have earlier, so if you could use that to explain.
Yeah. So all of this can be simplified in a simple, what I call, you can say, my circadian life wheel. Circadian rhythm essentially means our body has many rhythms that repeat in every 24 hours. It's very complicated because almost every gene in our body, every hormone, everything has a 24 hours rhythm. But the good thing is we can control all those rhythms by doing few things. One, to begin to use the wheel, first use the outer wheel to figure out when you wake up. So for example, if someone wakes up at 7 a.m., so that's the wake up time. And be consistent. It's not that exactly you have to wake up at 7 a.m., 15 minutes, 30 minutes, wiggle room is fine.
And you can choose when you want to wake up. It can be 6 o'clock, it can be 8 o'clock.
Yeah, it can be, but be consistent. That's the whole point. And the reason why we try to wake up around sunrise time or little after that is, in many places it gets too noisy, there can be light. And then after you wake up, what happens is our sleep hormone still goes down for the next 1 to 2 hours. And our stress hormone goes up right after we wake up. So this thing I call the changing of the guards. The hormones are changing. And this is when it's not a good idea to eat. So then you give yourself 1 to 2 hours break. Suppose say you give 1 hour break and you woke up at 7 a.m., you are eating at 8 a.m. Then you count 8 hours, 9 hours, 10, 11 or 12 hours. And that's your eating window. This green zone is your eating window. You got to add 2 more things which are important. One is, as I said, light in the daytime is very good for us because light reduces depression. Light is the best antidepressant. It's plentiful and it's free. So step outside in the first half of the day and get some daylight for 30 minutes. And when you're outside, you can also take a walk. So in that way, you get at least 3,000 to 4,000, maybe 5,000 steps, some light, so that becomes your circadian life.
Thank you so much. So what he's telling us is we need to get up at the same time, go to bed at the same time, and try not to eat at least an hour or 2 after waking up.
Yeah.
And also step out every day and take a walk to just get some sunlight, which is an antidepressant.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us.